This week, we are taking a look at a very relevant topic. We're taking a look at the fast track courts. Do they actually deliver justice for what they are made for? And in particular, we're going to be taking a look at the case of sexual assault cases. Do fast track courts actually deliver faster justice, or are they there just in name? Do we have enough of these? What are the problems that are facing them? Are the problems just related to infrastructure, or is it also related to content? For instance, because of meeting a deadline, do fast track courts actually rush through the cases and don't focus on the details? Is justice really delivered? Because as one of the panelists says, there is a difference between justice delayed and also justice hurried. So do fast track courts fill that breach, or do they fall into the gap? To figure out some of the answers, I have a panel of legal experts. And in fact, before I introduce everybody, I just want to put one statistic out there. The focus came on fast track courts into sexual assault cases came soon after the Nirbhaya case, really, in recent memory. And it took 7 years for that very case to be heard with all the appeals. So, considering that the most high profile case dragged on for so long, what is the fate of the other cases? Are only high profile cases heard? Then what happens to the cases that are not so high profile? So joining me is a panel of legal experts. I have Mr. Rakesh Tiwari ji. He's an advocate in the Supreme Court and Delhi High Court, and he's also a former district and sessions judge in Delhi and also a former public prosecutor. We have Mr. Sunil Gupta. He's the ex-superintendent at the Hard Jail. He's also a former legal advisor at Delhi jails, and he's an advocate at the Delhi High Court. And he's also the author of a book, Black Warrant, that talks about the famous inmates at the Hard Jail, which I'm told is soon going to be made into a web series. Soon who will be joining us is Geeta Luthra. She's, of course, a well-known senior advocate. She's practices in the Supreme Court, Delhi High Court, and she's also currently an additional advocate general for the state of Haryana and a senior counsel for the government of India in the Supreme Court. Rakesh Tiwari ji, I would like to begin with you first, because you have a first-hand experience. You're a former district sessions judge. You have a first-hand experience of the courts also, and in particular in the fast-track courts. Are they just a misnomer? क्या लगता है कि fast-track courts actually अपना काम कर सकते हैं और नहीं कर सकते हैं? तो what are the problems that are in the way? What are the impediments?
Hello everyone. First of all, it is a very dangerous topic, as per my opinion, in the whole IPC. The moment you will speak, the gender bias is bound to peep inside. So warning myself to be most objective in my approach, I will discuss. First, from the layman point of view, आम आदमी के दिमाग से एक चीज आज निकालनी बहुत जरूरी है इस डिस्कशन में। अक्सर हमारा जो आम लोग हैं जो राय बनाते हैं रेप के प्रति या अन्य अपराधों के प्रति, वो फिल्मों को देख करके बनाते हैं। जिस तरह से फिल्मों में एक 3 घंटे के अंदर वो समराइज करके उसका रिजल्ट दे देते हैं, वही उनकी एक्सपेक्टेशन हो जाती है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। और इसीलिए कहा गया ये जरूरी है जस्टिस जल्दी से जल्दी लोगों को न्याय मिले, लेकिन कहीं इसकी आड़ में जस्टिस हरीड इज जस्टिस बरीड न हो जाए। ऐसा सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बहुत बार कई फैसलों में कहा है। तो इसलिए दोनों पक्षों को बैलेंस करने के बाद ही मैं कुछ बोलूंगा। 2012 में एक फैसला आया मोहनलाल का, जिसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट्स बनाने के लिए जोर दिया रेप केसेस पर। अब आप सोचेंगे ये रेप केसेस जो हैं वो खाली इंडिया की प्रॉब्लम है, ऐसा नहीं है। परसों मैं न्यूज़पेपर में एक छोटी क्लिप पढ़ रहा था, बट इट वाज सरप्राइजिंग फॉर मी। वेस्ट अफ्रीका में एक कंट्री है लाइबेरिया में इस समय प्रेसिडेंट ने इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर कर दी। अब तक हमने इमरजेंसी सुनी थी, फाइनेंशियल इमरजेंसी होती है, वॉर की सिचुएशन में इमरजेंसी होती है, और कोई महामारी फैल जाए उसमें इमरजेंसी होती है, लेकिन वहां रेप केसेस इतने बढ़ गए थे कि प्रेसिडेंट वाज बाउंड टू डिक्लेयर द इमरजेंसी। इंडिया में भी सिचुएशन बहुत खराब है, इसलिए फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट का कंसेप्ट आया। सोचा यह गया था कि हम एक सुपर फास्ट एक्सप्रेस ट्रेन चलाएंगे जिसमें ये केसेस जल्दी से जल्दी निपटेंगे, लेकिन सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम आज फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट्स के सामने आ गई कि एक्सपेक्टेड नंबर ऑफ फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट्स हैव नॉट बीन क्रिएटेड, सो पेंडेंसी इज टू हाई विद एवरी फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट दैट इट हैज कन्वर्टेड इटसेल्फ इनटू ए गुड्स ट्रेन। अब होता क्या है, यहाँ क्वेश्चन प्रायोरिटी देने का या पिछड़ने का नहीं है। तो सबसे पहली प्रॉब्लम क्या आती है, मैक्सिमम accused in such heinous cases are in judicial custody. So problem before the judge is how to give priority to those cases who are persons are languishing in jail. Suppose tomorrow they are acquitted, then who is going to return their 6 year, 7 year or 3 year or whatever is the time spent in the trial? कौन उसको लौटाएगा वापस? वो नहीं लौटाया जा सकता। इसलिए जो कस्टडी में लोग होते हैं उनको प्रायोरिटी दी जाती है। तो फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट की वो है। दूसरा, हमने फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट जो शुरू कर दिए उनके लिए हमने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं क्रिएट किया, ना तो पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेशन में ना ट्रायल के दौरान। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आज हमारी दिल्ली में मोटर एक्सीडेंट केसेस के लिए अलग से सब थानों में यूनिट बनाए गए हैं। वो डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस रिपोर्ट पेश करते हैं और जल्दी से जल्दी इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज वगैरह को सब डॉक्यूमेंट्स वगैरह को वेरीफाई करके लाते हैं ताकि उनके जो कंपनसेशन केसेस है उनका डिस्पोजल हो जाए। लेकिन इस तरह की कोई भी स्पेशल यूनिट्स इन्वेस्टिगेशन की विद इन द पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट अभी तक भी किसी स्टेट ने क्रिएट नहीं की है, सो दैट एक्सक्लूसिव एक ब्रांच हो जाए जो रेप केसेस को डील करे। सिमिलर इज द सिचुएशन विद द medical wing, that is hospitals. No doctors, no para medical staff has been exclusively posted for dealing with the rape victims. क्योंकि याद रहे, rape is not a disease, ये कोई बीमारी नहीं है, it is a state of things, जिसमें क्या है, केवल डॉक्टर क्या करता है, उस समय को एग्जामिन करके जो कंडीशंस हैं, जो फैक्ट्स हैं, वो उनको नरेट करता है, whether he found some injury on the body of the female, so and so forth. तो इसलिए उसको भी अलग से करना पड़ेगा। फीमेल डॉक्टर्स ही होनी चाहिए ताकि जो फीमेल विक्टिम है वो कंफर्टेबल फील करे, इजीली अपना चेकअप वगैरह करा सके, इस तरह का। तो अब हमारे सामने जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं वो मैं आपको गिनाए देता हूं। एक तो मैंने बताया इंक्रीजिंग नंबर, तो इस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में अभी हमको फॉरेंसिक लेबोरेटरीज बहुत ज्यादा चाहिए। आज के ई टेक्नोलॉजिकल जमाने में हमने देखा मोबाइल फोन्स, CCTV cameras, DNA test, etc. are very much required. Almost I had an interview with my friends at the fast track courts, सबकी एक ही शिकायत थी, फास्ट ट्रैक FSL के जो रिजल्ट है, फॉरेंसिक लेबोरेटरीज के रिजल्ट है, वो सबसे आखिर में आते हैं जाकर।
Rakesh, can you be a little more in English also, because our audience is also international.
The FSL results are coming with very delayed. Right. Very delayed results are there. Then second problem arises with the security check. How to provide security to the victim. So in Delhi, vulnerable deposition rooms have been created. By help of the technology, the victim is made to sit in a separate room and accused is put behind a screen where he can see the whole court proceeding, but nobody can see him inside that. And all things are connected to a camera, and judge is sitting over there and the counsels are standing in front of the judge. Now, suppose a question in cross-examination is to be put to the witness, then witness from the witness box, witness room will speak on his mic and it will come on the screen. And if the identity of the accused is to be shown to her, then it is the television screen on which the face of the accused shall be depicted, so that she can very well identify the accused or she can deny that thing. So these kinds of vulnerable witness special boxes or special rooms should be created throughout country, so that the more and more facility for providing security. Now in Delhi, almost in every district, such rooms have been created, and it has been taken care of that victim's entry is separate and victim is brought in the full security of the police right from her home to the court and back to her home, so that nobody can interfere with her liberty or can threaten her. So these are the things which are actually required in the fast track courts. Third thing is, the victims are generally of the outside states, so they are not traceable. So much time is consumed in summoning them and tracing out them. Then the counsels are taking adjournment. Suppose there are more than one accused in the case, so every counsel is to be adjusted. A date is to be fixed as per convenience of all the councils. And that is the reason for the delay also. A procedure is to be followed. Now, an expectation has been generated by Honorable High Courts that before framing of charge, the victim should be heard. Before the hearing of the bail application, the victim should be heard. And even the hearing of the bail application and the framing of the charge takes too long on this account. Then the victim, there are numerous documents and a big list of witnesses. To curtail that, our Code of Criminal Procedure provides a provision, that is 294 CRPC, wherein a document is put to the opposite party to admit it or to deny it. Suppose it is admitted, then it need not be proved by calling its witness. And that's how we can curtail the list of witnesses. But this practice is not being followed, is not being adhered to, so as to curtail the list, resulting that all the witnesses, maybe 30, 40, or 20, are to be examined. That takes too much time. Now,
so you've highlighted the main points, sir. So if you can quickly give us a conclusion, then we'll go back to this later. But
then within the cases, there are category of cases. Nowadays, the fast track court's docket is choked by the cases where sexual relations have been established on the promise of a marriage. Now, Supreme Court just in 2019 itself has given two contradictory verdicts. One is Anurag Soni's version, and one is this Pradeep Suryabhan Pawar's version versus State of Maharashtra. In two, facts were almost similar, but Honorable Supreme Court reached to the two different conclusions because of the promise to marry. These cases are flooded in the courts. And the real cases, which are real victims, their cases are lagging behind due to these kinds of cases. And what happens in these cases? And second is the rape cases which have been filed for extraneous consideration, such as extortion, such as taking revenge, etc. These are also the cases which are taking much time, and the real cases are lagging behind. So these are some of the problems, and we can talk of solution also later on.
Thank you, Rakesh. In fact, Geeta, he's highlighted the fact that, there are different cases that are, because some frivolous cases come up, some, the cases that are even in the sexual assault, there are various categories of case that kind of confuse the situation also. So I would like to talk to you about, what is the priority should be given to which cases should get priority within the sexual assault area also, because it's a large area. So is there some way of figuring out which is the priority, which cases should be heard first? How does that work?
See, you can't really put anything in a straitjacket. Ultimately, one of the aspects that's come out is that those who are able to either get publicity or exercise influence or are big cases, so to say, they may get priority, and other cases which are not, the offenses may be as heinous, but they belong to poorer strata of society. They may not be able to be equally vocal, whether as victims or as accused, and those cases may not get the same precedence. Now, how do you choose which case should get precedence? According to me, each case is as important. And this, as lawyers may tend to go for cases which may be financially more remunerative, but as a court of law, that's why justice is blind, is because for a court of law, each person that comes for justice, and therefore there is equality before the law, and there should be no difference with regard to a case which may get media attention and which may not get media attention. This is actually not what happens in practice. So there are courts and courts which will say, why should I give your case precedent? Tell me what's exceptional in your case over the other 6 lakhs fast track court cases. Tell me why. But there'll be another court that may say, all right, your facts seem glaring. But even in rape cases, for example, the statistics will show there are two kinds of rape cases. It may happen within the home, because that fact has got documented, that rapes of young children sometimes happen with those who are caregivers or known to the family of the caregivers. Otherwise, they won't leave the child with them. So there will be that brand of cases. There are those brand of cases which also are within your friends or family, which is consensual relationship, which is it sex? Is it rape? It may start with rape, not end up in being rape. It may start with the person persuading another person and then the person being blackmailed to continue. We don't know. But therefore, there's a huge spectrum. I think we have to distinguish those cases which are alleged consensual cases, and if they seem to have a strong color. But who's going to distinguish? So there's a huge issue here. And therefore, the whole aspect seems to be that we would have to send the baby with the bathwater to the fast track courts, and the fast track court will then have to use its discretion as to what to expedite and what not to expedite, because the problem with our fast track courts are that the fast track courts are overburdened. So sometimes the so-called slow track courts or the normal track courts will go with the same speed or quicker speed than a fast track court. The fast becomes slow and the slow becomes fast. And that's why so we have to find that solution. Even in POCSO, for example, the phenomenal increase in POCSO cases in Delhi, some 353% or something. So we are missing something. The number cannot be legitimately so many. So the question is, if you start getting the chalk with the cheese, as they say, then where do you say, okay, this is glaring? And this, Mr. Tiwari would be the best person to say how many cases they see. And I've done some POCSO matters. My daughter's done POCSO matters. You know, you come across POCSO matters all the time. Question is, there are cases and cases. And again, you have to see very carefully, why is the number increasing? So we have to be very careful that cases which are being filed for oblique motives, say landlord-tenant disputes being given, property disputes, we come across all of these during our profession, and we come across genuine horrific cases where you can see that it's an outright case of abuse of a girl's body. So there will be cases and cases, and it will be for the discerning judge to determine how to give precedent and how to allocate time and to increase our number of judges. Our ratio is pathetic. We have to increase the number of judges.
What is the ratio?
To say at the moment, and then I'll come back whenever you are, you ask me any questions. Sorry, Priya, you were asking something?
Yeah, what is the ratio of the judges to the courts?
I think we have a 16 judges to 1 lakh ratio or some such amount. I can verify it, but it's in comparison to the US. And I'll give an example of visiting a court there. I just went to one civil criminal court, trial court, because we were many years ago filing some petitions there. And same in the UK. And there were 4 cases before the court. The court had 4 cases. It had timing set, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So the judge has time. At one time, we talked to one Chief Justice of England and Wales. And he said, sometimes we take 6 months to decide one case because of the enormity and the fact of the law we are going to shut down. Our Supreme Court judges have 40 to 60 cases in a day.
So that
on a miscellaneous day.
Well, overburdening, and also the second thing that Rakesh ji talked about was that in the hurry, as he says, justice hurried could be justice buried. In the hurry to meet a deadline, are we missing the details? B, do we have too few lawyers, too few judges to meet the demand that is there? But Mr. Gupta, Sunil ji, if you can talk to us about the statistics, how bad is the situation? You've also your experience as in Tihar jail also. How many people are there on sexual assault cases? What is the data like? If you can give us a bit about how serious the problem is in numbers.
Yeah, I will give you total population. Basically, as on 31st December 2019, the total number of prisoners in Indian jails was 4,78,600. This was the exact number in Indian jails. And I want to tell you that in India, we are having 1,350 jails, out of which central jail are 144, and then district jail are 612, and so many sub jails and open jails, women jails, these jails. Out of this 4,78,000 prisoners, under trial number is 69%. Exactly 69.17% were the under trials, and 30% were the convict. I just want to tell you that this speak of how our criminal justice administration is working. In year 2005, the number of under trial in the Indian jails was 55%. 55% were the under trial and 45% were the convict. Despite so many strictures by the Supreme Court, by other courts, this number is steadily increasing in the jails. If I again repeat the statistics of 2019, 69%, from 55% it has reached to 69%, and convict are 30%, around 30%. So far as this overcrowding is, this is 118% is the overcrowding of prisoner in the jail. Now I am coming on the sexual offense. In convicts, we are having 21,020 prisoners who are in the sexual offense against the women. Out of these sexual offense, 64% of the prisoners were facing the rape charges. Then, in dowry-related offenses, the number was around 26%. They were in dowry-related offenses. Then, in the assault on women cases, that is around 4% prisoner in those cases. Then, insult to the modesty of women, 0.78% or total 164 prisoners were there. And in cruelty by husband or relatives against the woman, there were 5.68% cases out of all these women cases. This is, I am telling you, of convicts. Now I am coming to the under trials. For the under trials, there were, for under trials, there were total 57,454 prisoners who were facing these crime against charges against crime against women. Out of this, around 60% of the under trial prisoner, they were facing the rape charges. Then around 23% they were facing the dowry death cases, dowry related cases. Then assault on women, around 7% prisoner, 7.84% prisoner, they were facing the charges assaulting the women.
Then 67% by and large, Mr. Gupta, if I may interrupt you, are coming in for cases of sexual assault, whether it's rape or the assault against women. These are the under trials, right? So basically, under
Only
trials.
69%. 69% are the under trials. This is total number of under trials. And this
So now
figure
the
I am
larger-
giving you. Yeah. Please,
larger
please.
takeaway from the statistics, it shows that the fast track trials, considering the number of under trials that are there, 69% in sexual assault cases,
Yeah.
waiting trial. So that means the fast track courts are not really doing their work. It's not a fast track justice, is it?
No, most of the courts are doing basically, we don't have any legislation which cover these fast track courts. Only guidelines have been issued by the government how these fast track courts will work. Basically, these guidelines, they can never supersede the provision of criminal procedure code. As a result of which, these fast track court judges, they are following the CRPC, and in some cases, I have seen the statistics in 2018. Only in 22% cases, the cases were finished in time. In 78% cases, they take longer time than the normal this court disposing of these rape cases. They have 78% have taken more time than that.
But like the Nirbhaya case, for example, it was such a high-profile case, Mr. Gupta. Why did it take 7 years?
Yeah. No, basically,
it went to a fast track court, right?
No, fast track court basically relate to the trial court. In that case, trial court has did finish this case in a stipulated time. Then there was appeal, and then to the Supreme Court. So overall, it was 7 years.
This is where Rakesh Tiwari, can you explain to us if the fast track courts are subject to the procedures of appeals, Supreme Court will come in, then how is it fast track? Is it as a misnomer?
Yes, of course, it may be a misnomer. Actually, fast track is a state of mind rather than a state of facts. Even a general judge, suppose he is sincere enough, then he can dispose of a murder case even within 3 months. It depends upon so many things. See, fast track courts are courts for trial. How to take up a speedy trial, which is also a fundamental right of a citizen. A speedy trial now has to be, as Gupta ji said, has to be followed according to the Code of Criminal Procedure. First, the arguments to be heard on point of charge. Thereafter, prosecution evidence. Then statement of accused shall be recorded. Thereafter, defense evidence, if the accused wants to lead, will be taken on the record. And thereafter, the final arguments. And it takes now, this decision-making process also takes a much considerable time. So, these fast track courts were made so that the list can be, as I said, that the list can be curtailed by adhering to the admission denial processes. Then separate mechanism has to be that we know, all know, that this case is bound to fail in the court because of the quality of evidence and all other things. So can we not develop a mechanism with the help of the parliament or even by the guidelines of the Honorable Supreme Court or Superior Court, that some mechanism, there exists a mechanism at present. For example, in prosecution branch, there is a mechanism that whenever charge sheet is prepared, the prosecutors are bound to check it and raise their objection. That look here, these are the shortcomings in the charge sheet. Then investigation officers are required to fulfill that. So there are two kinds of defects. One are curable defects and one are incurable defects. For example, if there is a delay in the FIR, in lodging the FIR, then why the delay took place can be explained. But if a witness has not signed a document, this is an incurable defect. You cannot get his signature subsequently on a document. So these are the things. So can we have a high-powered committee constituted so as to scrutinize every charge sheet of rape so that it can, like in American system, because in America, for trial or for a trial which results in total failure, thousands and thousands of dollars are given in compensation. In India, जान बची तो लाखों पाए, लौट के बुद्धू घर को आए. When a person is acquitted, वो कहता है बाप रे मैं कचहरी से छूटा. Nobody claims compensation. So law of compensation has not been developed in India, and that is why there is insincerity towards scrutinizing the charge sheet as to what is the quality of the evidence. So if high power committee doesn't mean that it can act in an autocratic manner. No, its decision shall be subject to review by the Honorable High Court. Suppose some complainant says that my case has been wrongly closed by these high power committee, then he can challenge it, and the High Court can direct otherwise against the decision of the committee. So this kind of scrutiny committees are to be established at once so as to give a fast tracking or speedy trial to the court. So you are right that it is a misnomer. It means how to give a speedy trial. This is the object, but it does not mean, as I said. Yeah.
Let me get Geeta ji into it. There are some cases that are high profile also. We were discussing like the Kuldeep Sengar case. It's only because of the public scrutiny that the case got speeded up. Why was the Ram Rahim case not treated, for instance, as a sexual assault case? Also, so how do you decide that which aspect of the case should be given preference? If you make it a sexual assault case, maybe it would have been a speedier trial.
So you're absolutely right. In fact, the Ram Rahim case in its own way was a big got a lot of publicity. Fortunately, the Kuldeep Sengar case came to the Supreme Court. So what happens is, if a case remains in trial court or in the High Court, then it goes its normal course despite the publicity. So here in the Kuldeep Sengar case, actually it was a case because of the age and the way all the witnesses, Kuldeep Sengar case or a lot of these trials will make you think why we still don't have a Witness Protection Act.
Yes.
Why was it necessary for the Supreme Court to make a scheme in 2018? But there is no act. Now, fact is that many cases would actually, if there was fast track and if there was witness protection, both coupled with each other, the advantage will be that if the accused is being wrongly accused, he will get his, he will get his liberation soon. One of the facts the Supreme Court has said, I think it's in Raju versus State of Madhya Pradesh, one of these judgments, it said that, although law has to be victim-centric, it also has to be accused-centric. An accused will never get back his reputation once you have maligned it, even when he is acquitted. So the importance in all this is, why not give the witness protection? You won't have BMW cases, you won't have Manu Sharma cases, you won't have all these cases. Manu Sharma, God bless him, he's finished his term, he's gone out. I don't want to victimize him or talk. He's done what law enjoined on him and he has served his sentence and gone. So I don't want to speak on case. I'm only saying many cases which become these high profile cases, including Nitish Katara, all these, many of them are such high profile cases that that's the one time when media plays a positive role. But despite media, if someone wants to make a witness hostile, they will manage it. So the question here is, why don't you have a witness protection scheme and a genuine scheme? You can't. In India, it's a lip service. Tell me, how many cases do we have where people's identity are changed and they are sent to the Cayman Island or to Panama Islands or somewhere, changing their identity so that they feel safe? How many people are given enough money? So whole outlook has to be, I think, the first important fact we have to remember is that in most cases, a rape victim's family, once having spoken up, will continue to speak up. But the people around them, the other witnesses, if they've been witness to it, may be changed and may in fact resign. So that is where you need a protection, and you need to see how are victims to be protected. And I feel the same way you say protect the identity of a victim, you have to protect the identity of the accused. What when after 10 years the accused comes out and in India you don't give compensation, as Mr. Tiwari said? Because who will go? I have 2-3 clients who, in cases where their employees accuse them wrongly of 377 and other cases out of, according to them, for extortion, they got acquitted also. They said, we will file. Then their family members say, are you mad? You've faced this for 10 years. Are you ready to? We are not ready to go through another case. You may be ready. And the person thinks, I want my name cleared. People say, now lie low, go away, do what you like, but don't come back to these courts again. So the fact is, both for the victim as well as for the accused, our legal system is unfriendly. And I mean also for the accused. Because the victim, if she is, if she is expressive, if she is able, which there are a few of those, there may be 20%, and there's other cases which get heard in fast track. They are the ones whose voice is heard. But the poor person who is not able to, and I'm not saying they didn't suffer or this one suffered. There will be cases and cases of all kind. They may have suffered or they may have not suffered. But the question is, you have to, and there will be victims who are ready to go public. They don't want protection of 228A. They don't want anonymity. They want to speak about their case for various reasons, even to make it an example, because they may be bold and strong. 90% will not be like this, but they will be. So we have to leave it as an option to the victim if they want disclosure of their identity. But let me tell you, an accused, no accused wants his identity given. So why will you distinguish? Why will you say accused identity? He may get acquittal later after 10 years. We are not giving him compensation. Our legal system doesn't think of that. We don't do it scientifically. We have no scientific tools. Our forensic laboratories are completely pathetic. So then, what if a man is acquitted and the same newspaper that has carried it for 6 months on the front page reports it or doesn't report it, or reports it in one line on page number 16 of their newspaper?
Because I think that a lot of this also has to do with the reputation of the judicial system. At the end of the day, that accessibility to justice is a problem, both for the victim and, as Geeta has now pointed out, even for the accused. Sometimes they have a problem. Mr. Gupta, Sunilji, can you tell us the number of courts that are there? For instance, does every state have enough fast-track courts? For instance, Uttar Pradesh, I remember you're saying that there are fast-track courts for rape cases, but not for POSCO cases. So which are the states that have delivered well on the fast-track courts? Which are the states that are really lagging behind? And also in cases of assault, do you know which states report the maximum cases?
Yeah, basically, you were mentioning about the UP, Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, there are 218 fast-track courts. 218. And there were 25,479 cases of rape and crime against women, and 42,379 cases of POCSO. For that, they constituted 74 courts for the POCSO and 144 courts for the crime against women. This is the position of UP. Then you please come to my table, which is with you. I will just show that how many fast track courts are working in Indian states.
While we get the
Please,
table up,
please,
can you tell
come.
us which is the state, which is the maximum number of cases? Okay,
Here
we got
is
the table up.
yeah. I will just the table is here. Yeah, you see that we are having 21 fast track courts in Andhra Pradesh, and on second number 77 in Maharashtra,
In
and
UP.
then we are coming to the UP is having maximum this. This is 206. Here it is showing 206. And
What about Madhya Pradesh? Because the large number of sexual assault cases are from Madhya Pradesh.
yeah, in Madhya Pradesh there are 64 courts. There are 64 fast track courts, and in some states you can see that in some states there are no fast track courts, and in total 581 courts are functioning in different states. Then we are coming to the second table. There I will show you the how the cases are being disposed of. You see that in Andhra Pradesh, number of fast track court functional as on 31st March 2019 was 21, and cases which were disposed of during 2016 were 1861, 2017 was 2615, and 2018 were 2504, and there were total 5364 cases in the Andhra Pradesh. Then if we come to the second this is West Bengal. In West Bengal there were 88 special courts, and these courts, the fast track courts, sorry, these courts have disposed of 12,351 cases in 2016, 15,482 cases in 2017, and 16,358 cases in 2018. Then in Maharashtra, there were 77 courts, fast track courts, and these courts have disposed of 30,153 cases in 2016, then 35,046 cases in 2017, and 32,807 cases in 2018. So you see the number of these cases disposed of is gradually increasing. If we see this number is gradually increasing, it means the functioning of fast track court is steadily going faster.
That is at least some good news. But the other panelists were also talking about the shortage of judges and all. What kind? Do you have retired judges also on the bench? How to increase the bench strength of the fast track courts? Do you have any suggestions, solutions?
Yeah. At present, the judges are taken from the existing judiciary. This affects the other cases. If you are taking one judge from the existing judges' strength, already we are having shortage of judges. And if you take judges from there to have these fast track courts,
Sunil,
so it affects the other cases also.
Per million that we have. I said 16, 19 per million.
Yeah. Basically, I'm telling you, I have spent as an officer of the jail 35 years I have spent at the Hague. When I joined in 1981, even at that time, there was shortage of judges and long pendency of the cases. And when I retired in 2016, the same problem persists. Despite so many hi-fi order from the High Court, from the government, and so many agencies, but the position is the same.
So nothing. So you said the cases are being dealt with speedily. So why is that? If the number of judges is the same problem, infrastructure remains a problem. So are cases being speeded up because of they're not really adequately dealt with, but they just quickly just to meet a deadline? Or you think the cases are given a fair hearing and the speeding up is a positive thing?
The problem here is that we have to sensitize the judges who are in the fast track courts. We have to sensitize prosecutor. We have to sensitize the court staff so that they take adequate measures to dispose of the cases faster. So there should be training for the staff. The most important thing is that we don't have any legislation which control the functioning of the fast track courts. You can see that we are having guidelines. Government has issued guidelines, and those guidelines you can see when CRPC is there. Those guidelines are not relevant, maybe of little relevance for the court staff. So we need a strong legislation in which you mention that for so and so purpose, so much time will be taken. For so and so purpose, so much time will be taken, so that the case is disposed of in a prescribed time. I just want to tell you that in 1987, I took up this matter because at that time also we were having plenty of under trials in the jail. I took up the matter with Justice Kuldeep Singh, and Justice Kuldeep Singh on my petition, he prescribed the time limit that like in the rape case, he directed that rape case will be decided within 2 years. In murder case, he prescribed time limit that it should be finished within 3 years. Theft case, he directed that it should be finished within 1 year. He prescribed the timeline for each case. But I don't know, this criminal justice administration don't want any binding. They don't want any binding. Everyone was against this judgment of Justice Kuldeep Singh, and ultimately, this judgment was superseded by another bigger bench. So I am of the strong view. If we dispose of the cases in the prescribed guidelines, like you see the Right to Information Act. When this Right to Information Act was came into existence, the activists were deployed as these information commissioner. You see, because I was with the government, whenever there was delay in giving the reply to the information, the judges were imposing the fine on the concerned officer. That's right. Everything was very efficient, but day by day they are, because this time limit, even now time limit exists, but they don't impose the fine. So this right to information is just another statute. So
judges accountable. Are you saying that?
Yeah, everybody should be accountable. Judges, public prosecutor, and every witnesses, everybody should be accountable. You see, if some witness is not coming to the court, they are issuing this bailable warrant or non-bailable warrant. Why can't we do all these things for other functionary? We can do all this if we are giving some time limit, that in this time limit you finish the case. If you will not finish the case in this time limit, then the compensation, if you introduce this, then compensation will be given to the accused who is languishing in jail. Compensation should also be given to the accused.
Geeta ji is shaking her head very vehemently. Let her come in. And so is Rakesh ji.
No, basically.
That you want to come in first?
I know.
Okay.
And the compensation should also be given compensation should also be given to the victim. If the victim, this compensation is given to the both cases, like I am just repeating what Geeta was saying. Geeta was saying that I have seen so many cases at the heart that someone has spent, particularly these foreigners, they have spent 7 years in the jail in the NDPS cases, and after 7 years they are acquitted. So if there
Your
is
own words are
provision
being
of
used against you.
so
Mr.
You want to
if
rebut on this?
we will be having this scheme, basically I still hold this view that if we are having some scheme that you compensate to the accused as well as victim, then I think our system will do perfectly well. Otherwise, as I have told you that 35 years back when I joined the prison service, the position is as it is, as it is.
Okay. Let me bring in Geeta and then Rakesh on this.
My first question is to Sunil. Then what kind of reforms have you done? He's been working on reforms in Tihar throughout and everywhere. So the first point the finger at your neighbor, the other three point at you. But having said that, on the lighter side, what I'm saying is that for officers, and you know, one of the aspects in the Arbitration Act, an amendment was sought to be brought, I think 2015 amendment, which said that arbitrators, if they don't decide in time, part of their salary will be deducted. Now, this is one thing to say, a matter is to be decided in 6 months or 1 year or 1.5 years. The moment that you start giving this disincentive, then the judge will say, I will get strictures against myself. If for some reason natural justice is not being done, witnesses are not being examined, if a person is poor at framing the cross-examination, if an accused is not able to get a lawyer because his lawyer abandons him in midstream, I will forget all this. It's really what has been said, justice hurried will be justice buried. You can't do that.
No, I will reply this. I will reply this.
1 minute. A judicial officer cannot have the sword over his head. One of the aspects is that the judiciary, till the higher judiciary, has number of units to complete. They do have time logs to do. You may increase that time log, but the fact is, you have to see how overworked. So those who want to work will work. There will be judicial officers that will be working 14, 16, 18 hours a day. There will be officers who will be file pushers. There will be all kinds. But you can't be giving, for example, one of the aspects was, and I mean, I'm going back to rape cases, one of the amendments in 2013 is that if a policeman doesn't register a case of rape, then something would be deducted from his salary. Some criminal proceedings will be initiated. You can start a departmental proceeding, but you can't initiate criminal proceedings. You see, we are a country which is already disincentivized. We don't have initiative because we are scared that somebody will come and slap us if we do good work. This can't be a way of doing it. Sorry, now over to Mr. Tiwari. I'm sorry.
I will reply. 1 minute, I will reply. 1 minute, I will reply. Quickly, I am telling. In 2014, there is one judgment of Honorable Supreme Court that is in the Dori-related case. And the title is the Agnesh Bansal versus State of Haryana, like this. In that judgment, basically, you know what was happening, that the Supreme Court has directed several times that where a prisoner is inside the jail, has been sent to the jail, or when he is arrested, if the maximum punishment in that case could be up to 7 years, for him bail should be the rule and jail should be the exception. Anesh Bansal, yeah, Anesh Bansal case, Anesh Kumar or Anesh Bansal. Basically, I know the petitioner.
Yeah, you're right.
In Anesh, in that case, so when in this case, Supreme Court had directed that if any prisoner who could be punished up to 7 years of the jail is sent to the prison, then the presiding judge and the IO, police officer, they have to give the explanation why that person has been sent to the prison. And if you are sending that person to the prison, then you have to give the reason. That I have just told you. The effect of this was that in 2015 there were around 2,500 prisoners who could be who were under trial and who could be punished up to 7 years of sentence. And when I demit the office, there were only 40 or 45 prisoners who were under such category. So I just want to tell that these type of coercion on the part of superior authority, this work. You can't say that this don't work. This work.
Okay. I have a question for Rakesh ji. You know, you were talking about procedures that are followed, especially in today's day and age. Can we use body language expert analysis as evidence in the fast track courts?
Of course. This is provided within the Evidence Act by the word demeanor. By the word demeanor. Demeanor is to be recorded, and that is the reason in this lockdown period, on this COVID-19 period, we are not in a position to record the evidences because lack of demeanor, which, for example, a witness takes much time in answering a question. It means he is calculating in his mind as to how he has to reconcile his earlier answers given and how to answer this one question. Now, the judge very well can record this demeanor. So far as our friend Gupta ji was telling, let us not raise fingers on each other. It is actually depending upon two things basic towards which we are not looking. It is the political will which has to be accused for this situation of the courts as well as of the rape cases. Why? In 2014, Honorable Supreme Court itself has said, very beautifully remarked, they said that there are two ways. One is the widest form and other is the case-oriented form. Widest form is, they say that society requires a total revolutionary change. How? Through education and through awareness. Second point they gave, upliftment of the socio-economic conditions of the women. Third said, they say sensitization of the police and other concerned towards gender equality. Right? These were the broadest form which government has to take the initiative, which there must be a political will to do so. And the target oriented is to increase the number of judges. It is deliberately being kept low because it is the judiciary which curtails the wings of the executive or its dictatorship or its autocratic order. And
very loaded statement.
No executive wants that the judiciary should be increased so that always there is a sword hanging on their head by a horsehair. So this is the political will which will change the scenario. We cannot raise the finger. So far as compensation is concerned for the fault of anyone, already there is law. 309 CRPC provides that if the prosecution delays, it can be, the state can be punished with the levied with the cost. And if they, and what about the adjournment? What about the adjournment? Madam Geeta ji will admit there are certain lawyers who are adjournment experts. They are given a good fee to take an adjournment from the most strict judge. How to get an adjournment? So these are the things which are to be seen in balance, not to raise fingers on each other, coupled with the political will, so that we can achieve this end of fast tracking, a speedy trial of the court. That is.
I have a question for Geeta.
There should be a book written. What excuses can be made to get a judge? Necessarily lawyers, whoever.
Right.
Tariq par Tariq, as someone would say from the film. Geeta, there's a question for you. What is the scope for the fast track courts? Why is it restricted only to certain type of cases? And what changes can be brought about to make them cover more types of cases? Would that be a good idea?
So, I mean, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. I would want that every case should go to a fast track court. The fact is, why should a person, because you see, those cases punishable with life or death, mostly the courts don't give you bail. And then at the end of the day, you may be acquitted. Why should you have been in for 7 years? Then you go to Supreme Court, and so often you hear an argument being made, sir, I have been convicted, but I'm already in for 10 years. What's the point? And the court says, convicted, life, no, we won't give you bail, we may expedite. That expedition with the arrears waiting in the courts may take another 2 years. And very recently, the Supreme Court observed in one of the cases, it let off somebody who'd been in for 10 years. Where do you get them back their lives? So particularly the more heinous the offense, the more important is it that a matter should be in a fast track court. Now let's look at a theft case. Why should a man have a theft case also, even though the punishment is less? Because his name is being spoiled. Why should a person whose house is let out and he wants his house back, he's 90 years, he wants to live in peace in his house, not have somebody throwing rubbish from the top on him, not have somebody switching off his light? Question is, every particular kind of case comes with its own pain. People come to the courts because they have physical pain, material pain. Either there'll be offenses of prevention of corruption. You'll say, clean the stream of justice, purify the administration. So every case has some importance. The reason that we are giving rape and POCSO cases is this concept that this is one of the most heinous of crimes, gender justice, and that, to violate a woman's body is actually one of the worst kind of cases. Now, among bad, if you consider, being in a court of law is a pain in itself. The longer you are, the more painful it is. We as lawyers in India are not just lawyers. We also become hand-holding experts. How do we assuage our poor clients? So the fact is, whether it is a businessman, whether it's a criminal case, whether it's a civil case, whether it's a motor accident case and somebody has lost the one person who used to be their earning member, I can, in every field of law practice, I can give a painful example. But the fact is that it is only because you can have only so many fast track courts. Ministry has said that it's going to have some 1,100 fast track courts. It's allocated some 60, 70 crores for it. I think it was in 2018 or 19. Let's hope that let it get into action. But I am not a person who agrees that a fast track court for women means a court by women, with women, women clerks, women secretaries, women court staff, women judges. That means that till now only men have been dispensing justice, so we have not got justice in our country at all. So I don't know. That's really all.
Rakeshji, would you agree with this? Because you had raised the gender question on it, that...
Yes. Gender question is in the sense that, thanks, Madam Geeta, that she has put herself into the capacity in the position of a male. She is thinking in these terms. But female complainants, female victims were heard saying that they are not feeling easy. For example, till in Delhi, the vulnerable witness rooms were not made, not constructed. A curtain made of wood used to be kept there between the accused and the victim. Now, suppose a particular personalized question or the sexual act at the time of the rape, when this type of questions were asked to her, she was not feeling comfortable. So I was telling that gender thing in this sense, not in the sense that the male judges cannot deliver. Rather, they have delivered good judgments which have been upheld up to the Supreme Court. And with all the reasoning and with harsh punishment, they have awarded. So that was my meaning of the gender equality. So
Rakesh, another question for you: how has lockdown affected the fast track courts, and is there a backlog?
Yes,
how do we catch up?
Lockdown has affected. Major portion is there no recording of evidence, because by virtual hearing the evidence cannot be recorded. There is no technical safeguard. Suppose somebody is asking question to me, and somebody is standing in front of my camera is answering or is giving hint to me as to how to answer this question. So there are no safeguards, and that's why no evidence is being recorded. Only preliminary hearings, bail applications, and some urgent matters are taken in the fast track courts. So this has lockdown has completely paralyzed the working of the fast track courts. And that is why they have been given other work now. Other work means general cases of IPSS, so that some disposal can be given to other cases, if not to the fast track cases. This is the position.
And Geeta ma'am, do you feel that fast track courts actually do full justice to the case that they were assigned for, or do you get the feeling that the fast track courts are not, they're just glossing over the case instead of going into the details of it? And what is the process of approaching a fast track court?
It won't be a very pleasing answer, as a lot of my answers are not very pleasant, but I've seen the functioning. There are courts and courts which try to deliver justice to the accused and victim. However, sometimes I see that Mahila courts or fast track courts start feeling that the purpose of their existence is to give justice to the women, and therefore the purpose is to be pro-women, pro-victim-centric. Fast track courts are not to be victim-centric. They have to balance the victim and the accused equally. They have to go by the rule of law. So I will see some courts which are completely cognizant of the fact that part of the law is so necessary, and they are very sensitive to every case. But they also realize that sometimes it's being misused, maybe in 5% cases, maybe in 10% cases, maybe in 20% cases. But there are courts which are being completely biased against the accused. This is not the purpose of fast track courts. Our fast track courts have to be a model in themselves. I was perhaps saying, state of Rajasthan, one case, and the court has come down heavily, decided a matter in 7 days. You can't be sending a person for life imprisonment without giving him an opportunity to have a counsel. And we must remember that a lot of these rapes and POCSO matters are with the poor strata of society, those who can't afford lawyers, those who go with legal aid lawyers with no experience, which a man, even if he could afford anything, will sell his house because he has to save himself from jail. But these persons don't even know that. Recently, in one of the fast track courts in Delhi, acquitted a person after he was in for 7 or 8 years, and the man could not afford, didn't get bail because POCSO is of such serious repercussions. His children were sent to an orphanage because they had no way to earn money. His wife was not able to look after the children, and she was raped by the person up in her house because she couldn't have protection. And they live in Jhuggi Jhopri clusters. They had no lawyers. Their lawyer was not able to do the cross-examination of the and there is a Supreme Court direction that you will not preferably call a POCSO victim because they are young children. You have to balance everything. You have to look at it sensitively again. So we have, how can you decide a case in 7 days? So there is justice and there is justice. And let me also say one sad comment. Most of our good lawyers are not ready to go to trial courts because trial courts are not considered the more senior or the more competent. And this is not in the West, this is not in the UK, this is not in the US. Topmost lawyers will go to trial and yet be famous and known. Here in India, going to the topmost lawyers don't. And in trial, you actually require the best of the best. But the best of the best restrict themselves only to legal arguments and not to the cross-examination, where in the crucible of evidence a person is tested. I'm sorry, I'm a little passionate about this because I think the poor need justice, whether victim or accused.
Yeah, I would like to further add what Geeta has stated. Basically, if you see the prison statistics, I am taking the statistics of Delhi because I was their statistician for 15-20 years. If you see the Delhi statistics, you see how our criminal justice administration is working. Here, 80% of the prison population, they come from the lower economic strata of the society. I'm just explaining what is lower economic strata of the society, where their monthly income is less than 8,000 rupees. Then you see, most are from the Jhuggi Jhopri cluster or the different these resettlement colony from where prisoners are coming. You just see, only poor are committing the crime, rich are not committing the crime. Yes, they are equally committing the crime, but they are misusing this our criminal justice administration. They are getting bail, they are bribing the staff, they are doing everything, so they are not in the jail. Whereas poor, who is dependent upon these legal aid facilities, state legal aid, they are being punished. They may be punished within 7 days, they may be punished within a month, or they may be punished within a year. So most are the, I want to emphasize that most of the prisoners who are languishing in the jail, they are the poor.
Okay. Geeta, one question has come for you, which is there on the screen also. You made a very passionate comment on the fact that the judges want the higher profile high court cases. They don't want to do trial courts. They don't want to do cross examinations. Then how do you retain the faith, lawyers? I'm sorry. How do you retain the faith of the judiciary in such a situation? How do you retain faith in the system?
See,
so this is a question for me.
No, for Geeta ji.
I'll answer, then you answer. So
yes.
So let me tell you what is happening in India. सांप जहां मारा जाता है, असली मारने वाले वहां चाहिए होते हैं. Because to kill a snake is a very hyper technical work. You require very, very, very cautious. You have to remain very cautious. How to give a lathi blow is a very hyper technical thing. तो लकीर को जो पीटने वाले हैं ऊपर की अदालतों में, वो ज्यादा फेमस हो गए हैं, बजाय जहां सांप मारा जा रहा है, जहां एडिफिशियल ग्राउंड जहां केस के लेट डाउन किए जा रहे हैं, It is often said by the superior courts, particularly in revision and appeal, that we cannot substitute our opinion for the opinion of the trial court, because trial court has the occasion to see the witnesses, to see the whole trial from his own eyes. He has heard from his own ears. So he was in a very better position than us to appreciate that thing. It is often said, but it is given just a lip service. And that is why the lawyers are, and with respect to the particularly so many senior advocates of the Honorable Supreme Court, they even do not know the procedural aspect of the this thing. What they will say in the trial court, see the contradiction in terms. They will say, Mr. Judge, even if they come to the trial court, they will say, why are you sticking upon the procedure? Because after all, Supreme Court has said procedure is the handmaid of justice, right? And when trial court tries to follow that Supreme Court judgment, in the next following judgment, Honorable Supreme Court had said that, look, Mr. Trial Court, you are a creation of a statute. You have transgressed your limits. Be in your limit, whatever is prescribed in the procedural aspect.
Given that scenario, how do you retain your faith in the system? He's agreeing with you that, you know.
I'm saying,
So let Geeta answer. I want her to answer.
Most of the judges in the subordinate judiciary and all other sincere judges, wherever they are in India, for example, latest two judgments which are glaring, let me just give for reasoning.
Quickly, Rakesh, I wanted Geeta to answer.
Chaliye, please.
So how do I retain my faith in the judiciary? See, for the common man, I still retain faith in the judiciary. My functioning, and I have done a lot of legal aid. I've done it for DLSA. I've done it for High Court legal aid. I have worked with Sunil in Tihar jail. And let me tell you, it includes a lot of trial court work, criminal law, etc. Now and I've been passionate about whatever I do. There are good lawyers, and let me also tell you, there are more and more young people coming. When we started, nobody was there in legal aid. I think we were one or two of the sole voices. Slowly, I see young people so they don't have experience on their side, which is a big disadvantage, because then in cross-examination, you may make concessions. But there are people, there are good judges, there are wonderful judges who are concerned about delivering justice. Sometimes you ask people, sir, you had such a wonderful practice. Why have you come to work at 1/10 of what you were earning? And the answer is Pat, because I thought I would be able to contribute a little more to justice. So everyone plays a part, and therefore I have faith in the judiciary. I do feel there should be checks and balances. I do feel there should be checks, and more than Delhi, in all other states at district court level. In Delhi, there is a big eye. There is a constant watch on the courts at every level. But in other places, I do feel we need more checks and balances. But the ultimate faith of the common man in the judiciary is vindicated in 8 or 9 cases out of 10. And that's a lot.
Okay, last closing comments from all of you. Rakesh, I'll begin with you first. Name just 3 things or 2 things that you would like to see, in terms of to make the fast track courts really work. What are the immediate 3 things that you think should need to be done, paramount?
Immediate. The number of judges should be increased so that there will be rational distribution, which a judge can effectively dispose of, so as to give the judge. And let me now conclude with my remarks with the Karnataka High Court. The court should never be secret or a mute spectate. They quoted 2 shlokas from Gita while deciding a case of a woman of 69 years who was raped, and she was shouting at that time, look here, मैं तुम्हारी दादी की उम्र की हूं, what the hell you are doing with me? But the accused didn't spare her, and she was, and deciding that case, beautifully they have quoted, यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम धर्मस्य तदात्मात्मनं सृजाम्यहम्। और दूसरा उन्होंने कहा है, परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे। They have said that, look, we have to act like Lord Krishna of Mahabharata. So this particular motto, as given by the Karnataka High Court on 8th of September in a judgment, has to be kept by all the judges in their mind so as to give a speedy justice, a sincere things. And you know, black sheets are always there. We should talk of average. Average judge is doing very well, whether in the fast track or otherwise, but it is the political will which has to be changed, changed with the times, and e-technology also should come to the help, and particularly the artificial intelligence should also be applied to help the judges in speedily disposing the cases.
Okay. Mr. Gupta, if you can hear me, what are the
I
three?
can hear you.
What are the 3 things that you would like to see to improve the fast track courts, immediately, which can be done?
No, basically, there should be legislation. There should be legislation. Till now, the working of these fast track courts is being governed by the guidelines issued by the government. And these guidelines, these are only having the persuasive value, and these are not having any binding on the court functionary. So there should be legislation, and in that legislation, every should be mentioned that for that trial, how much time will be taken, and what would be the staff which shall be provided to the court, and there should be regularity of the budget, so that these courts may function effectively. And secondly, you see that we need the sensitization, or you can say the training to the staff. I'm not saying about the judges, then these prosecutor, then these other functionary of the court. They need training so that they all are in the same direction to finish the trial as soon as possible, with all by observing all the legalities. So this should be there. Plus, we can have this witness should be protected. Like in in Tihar, there are some cases where the child was the witness. So for that, we created one room where we put the toys and other things, so that the child don't feel any this embarrassment or feel any difficulty in deposing before the court. So there should be one this conducive environment in which these courts are being should function. Then, as I have told you that some of these courts are taking much longer time than the normal court. So I think this is completely avoidable.
Okay. Geeta, your last words, your last suggestions, rather 3 suggestions that you think can be implemented and are really imperative.
So the first most important aspect it came to my mind that there are some cases we can't talk about, or can't miss out when we are talking. One, of course, we've discussed to some extent Nirbhay, and said Nirbhay was decided with some 85 or 83 witnesses, 5 accused in 283, time taken, the defense witnesses over maybe 1 year or 1.5 years. It was, according to me, one of the examples where our police did a wonderful job. They did a criminal investigation, which was scientific. They did a medical forensic, the teeth marks, the FSL, getting the hair, getting everything on that stick which was inserted. They got proper forensic reports. One of the most important aspects, I have not seen trials in the West be so ad hoc as in India. In India, every case you hear, forensic evidence is lost before it is found. The scene of the crime is interfered before even the police go there. And when the police go there, they only say clean up the place, even before they collect. Your rate of conviction, which stands at 27% or 28%, would be much higher and would be sure you won't be accusing a wrong person. I've known cases where people accuse a wrong person because they have managed the police or managed the investigative agency or managed something. This is not permissible. The moment you will have scientific evidence, and therefore we need more forensic labs, we need the scene of crime to be looked at and preserved. And most important, and it may be anti-victim, is that any case of delay has to be well explained. Supreme Court in 2 cases, but that's not the trend just now. Both in Raju as well as there's another case where Supreme Court said 6 days delay, 11 days delay was fatal, because they said that if the version comes fast, it's bound to be genuine and truthful. We have to increase our conviction rate, but not at the cost of making wrong people convicted. And that's why we need scientific, well-investigated trials, and we need to have faster courts. The rest, the learned speakers before me have already said.
Well, I thank the panel, and really, I think we're all in agreement over here that yes, we do need more fast track courts, but the quality of those courts is something that really needs to be looked at, whether it is in terms of having more judges, having more the cases should be carried on a more sensitized manner, witness protection, upgrade the technology. All these are very relevant issues that have been raised. A somewhat controversial issue was also raised as to whether there should be more whether the legal personnel should be made more accountable. Should there be penalties, or should there be a time framework that should be carried out? That in such and such time a rape case should be heard, and such time a sexual assault case can be heard. Of course, this was met with some disagreement also. But I don't know whether accountability, but I think more transparency maybe would help to speed up the system and make it more acceptable to everybody. Because here we've spoken not just about the rights of the victim, but also the rights of the accused. At the end of the day, until the justice is delivered, everybody stands at the same platform. But thank you all for this. It's been a very frank and very candid conversation, and I've learned a lot, as I'm sure so have all our viewers. Thank you all for participating in this open talk. Thank you.
Thank you.